Greetings. Today I will demonstrate how to install Traverse, our barcode tracking system. If you can put a barcode on it, Traverse can track it. Listed here are the three installation options for Traverse. Traverse connecting to a SQL server that you already own. Traverse packaged with SQL 2008 Express 32-bit. Traverse packaged with SQL 2008 Express 64-bit. And the Traverse installation guide, which covers everything in this video plus a great deal more. All of our products are digitally signed. Should you download something from our website and the signature is not intact, please do not install it. Contact us. There are not many prerequisites, but the following must be installed or available before attempting to install Traverse. Obviously, an operating system. We will run on 32-bit or 64-bit Windows. That is Windows XP, Windows Server 2003, Server 2008, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows Server 2012, and Windows 8. We require the .NET Framework 3.5. Traverse also requires Internet Information Services. It'll work with IIS 5, 6, or 7, but if you are using 7, then the IIS 6 Management Compatibility Layer must be installed. Obviously, it requires a SQL Server. As we just covered, it'll connect to a SQL Server that you already own, or will install SQL Express for you. You must log into the server that you're installing Traverse on as an administrator. It could be a domain administrator or it could be a local administrator. It doesn't really matter. Since we have a SQL Server, we're going to install Traverse using that SQL Server. I'm going to answer yes to this question. I'm going to show you the time, which is 9:57:26, and then I'm going to pause the video as the product unpacks itself. You'll see this little status message. All the files that are packed within the Traverse installer will unpack. But that takes about a minute, and it's pointless to make you wait for that. Traverse is fully unpacked and ready to install. And you see, like I said, it only takes about a minute. I'm going to accept the end user license agreement. And here's our first screen. Now, as I said, Traverse is a browser-based application. So it requires Internet Information Services. As you can see here, there's a web client and there's a web service. If there were more than one website on your system, you can choose it. This IIS installation only has the default website. Also notice we have the default virtual directories. You can change them, but if you don't need to, then please don't. Also, you'll notice the login credentials. This is so that the application pools will log in as either the local system account or under an account of your choosing. You can set this up as a domain account as long as it has ample privileges to get to the SQL Server. So if you choose a domain account, then and you choose, let's say, SQL authentication or Windows authentication, that domain account may or may not need access to the database, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Clicking Next, you can see this is the default directory that I'm going to install Traverse. You can change that to anything you like. And Traverse has two services you'll notice here, the database service and the archive service. And you can turn these on or off depending on your installation. The database service maintains the health of the database by causing reindexing and backups and other SQL maintenance plan type activities. If your database administrator has SQL maintenance plans already set up in your database environment, then you can turn this service off. However, if you're installing Traverse with SQL Express, then you cannot turn this service off because SQL Express doesn't do any of these things all by itself. And Traverse will know, so it'll force you to keep it on. The archive service promotes database health by limiting the number of audit and transaction records in the live tables and in the historical tables. There are two system configurable thresholds for maintaining live data and historical data. One threshold is by date, and the other is by the number of rows. So, for example, you could choose to archive data that is, let's say, 6 months old. So then it will go from the live tables into the historical tables. You could also choose to keep history for 10 years. Or you could choose to keep history up to 1,000,000 rows or 2,000,000 rows. So it's up to you how you want to limit the amount of data that your system retains. And of course, that will affect the performance of the system, though we do index, so it should never slow down on you. We are tuned for SQL 2008. So here we are at the database screen. And I'm going to create a test database for Traverse. DBAs, don't be mad at me, I'm using the SA account. But similarly, if I were to use a service account for the services and for the application pools, I could certainly choose Windows authentication, and then I wouldn't have to use a login and a password. So testing the connection, you will see that the Traverse will be created for me on that SQL server, and I can choose the C drive or the E drive, or if you had more disks available on your SQL server, where I want my transaction log to reside and where I would like my database to reside. Let's talk a little bit about how the services communicate with each other. So you see there's the archive service, the interface service, report service, etc. And they each communicate via a certain port on that server. So for example, if I wanted a report, the web service would communicate with the report service over here via that 65104 and say, hey, generate this report for me. And then when the report service is done, it would communicate back with the web service and say, well, here it is, go display it to the user. You can change these ports if they're used by other applications. Otherwise, it makes no sense to do it. Also, you'll see the initial database size. Typically, SQL 2008, the initial database size would be about 2 megabytes, and on SQL 2012, it would be 4 megabytes. This is based on the default size of the model database. However, if the model database grows, then you can never create another database on that SQL server that is smaller than the model. So we give you the ability to adjust the initial database size right here. These are the default paths on MySQL server for where I would want my data to go, but you can change that as well. I'm about to click install, but before I do, I'm going to show you the time. I'm going to click install, and then I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to wait. It takes 5-6 minutes. So here we go, install, and now I'm going to pause. Okay, so Traverse has installed. It's starting the services, and we'll have a message that pops up shortly that says it's been installed. After we click OK on that message, we'll then open up, there it is. And as you can see, 10:08, so it took roughly 4 to 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes a little longer. I'm going to start the services. And show you the 4 services that are installed. Similarly, let's start IIS. Okay. So, it was relatively simple and painless. It only took a few minutes. And you see here are the services: the archive service, database service, interface, and report. And here we see two new application pools as soon as that comes up. Two new application pools. I have a Traverse web client and I have a Traverse web service. And you'll see also two new websites. And if I browse to the Traverse website, we'll see the initial Traverse screen for the first time. Once we're here, we would then log into Traverse and get it licensed, and that would be the next video. As soon as that comes up, we'll just take a look real quick, and that's it. Very simple. So in 15 minutes, you can install Traverse. So please do download it from our website, www.complianceabc.com, and install it. You get 2 months free trial, and then licensing is according to number of users. So please do download it, give it a try, give us a call.